Okay guys, welcome to Talking News. Subscribe, like, push that notification bell right now. And we're going to recap a little bit and do some reminders. Let's start here. Okay guys, I just want to mention this once more. So we see Vince with the basket here. And you can see he's straining, so it's something heavy in there. And we find out about this basket on May 10th. So we're going to go to May 10th and then we'll talk about this more. So what we will do is we'll go over, what we've seen briefly over through April 30th through May 4th, just for a recap. I apologize. Hopefully I'll get back on a roll here soon. So we already went through April 30th through May 4th. That video was a little sloppy. That one definitely I had a lot of trouble getting out. We were lucky we got that one. So what we learned is, April 30th, Brittany is headed to Massachusetts to her father's funeral. Then we find out that Maleah disappears, and Darian Vince comes out with a concocted story that was is pretty quick. How police, pretty much found out that it was, not a true story. That 3 men pulled up behind him in a blue truck, supposedly hit him in the back or the top of it, somewhere, hit him on the head, and took him, his son, and Maleah hostage. They drove with him in the back of the truck all day Saturday, then dropped him off on the side of the road. Darian Vince went to the hospital with his son. Surveillance camera caught the Nissan Altima pulling up to the entrance of the hospital doors, dropping Vince off. It's the same car that was supposedly stolen. We find out later what happens, which we're going to go over in this video. So Saturday, May 4th, Maleah is reported missing. But before that, witnesses say that they seen Darian Vince. He was spotted smoking on the porch, and this is during the time he's supposed to be knocked out. So according to a neighbor, he didn't have any marks on his head at that time or anything like that. He was fine and smoking, so he was not knocked out. He was not missing. So Brittany's at her mother's house right now, and he is somehow spotted smoking, but Brittany said that when she went to the apartment, she did not see Darian Vince. It's later this night that he actually goes to the hospital claiming that he was, kidnapped and been dropped off on the side of the road. And he gave multiple stories of how he got to the hospital. But he can't deny what surveillance camera says. So here is the surveillance photo for May 4th, and it's at 11:21 p.m. so it's almost May 5th. So what they're telling us, and I do not see that here, all I see is the Altima is there, it's not stolen or missing, is, they're saying that he was dropped off. People are debating who dropped Darian Vince off at the hospital. Some say it's Brittany because there's rumor that her phone was found in the passenger seat, supposedly. And then some suspect it might be his brother Joe, which I think is more likely. Because the car is not seen again after he walks into the ER. The car goes missing again. And it's not until May 11th, which we'll go over in a second, that they find that car again. But somebody was driving that car, and I think, and you think, that Vince knows who was driving that car. Not only that, they seen this car at 3 p.m. Saturday at a stoplight. That's the time I have that they seen the car there. If I'm wrong, correct me. Okay, so on May 5th, it's this image is released where they seen the car at 3 p.m. in Sugarland, but they don't say who's driving it. The photo of Vince's injury at the hospital is also released this day. Now, they're saying that Maleah's family they're passing out flyers at Oyster Creek this day. I'm not certain whether, because I got a little mixed up on the dates there, but whether or not they were passing out the flyers this day. Now, detectives, it was Detective Sharp that actually goes into Brittany Bowen's and Darian Vince's apartment to investigate on with the permission of Brittany Bowen's. Now, we don't find out this day what really happened, but this is what happened that day. The detective says she finds several drops of blood that was leading down the hallway to the bathroom. She also found some on various surfaces on the bedroom, is what we're being told, and it was in an article. They also used a chemical regimen in order to light up blood stains that you cannot see, or residue that you would not see with the naked eye. We find out that this is Maleah's residue, and some of the residue that they found is mixed with a male's, and we find out that it is, in fact, that is Maleah Davis, and it is the offspring of Brittany Bowen's residue. Positive. Vince is also released out of the police custody and from the hospital. He stays over with Brittany Bowens and her mother for a time, and then we lead into May 6th, which is a Monday. I almost forgot to mention the Amber Alert for Maleah Davis goes out on the 5th, so that's Sunday. Then the 6th starts up, and EcuSearch is on this case immediately. They're out there searching for Maleah. They're on ATVs, they're on foot, and they're searching the area where Vince said he was dropped off. Brittany is interviewed by media but refuses to answer any questions, and her mom ends up taking over the interview. It's also this day Brittany says, and you can see where she was distraught, and you wonder, there was something else bothering her, and you could tell something else was going on. And it's this day that Vince stopped communicating with Brittany Bowens. She's trying to get a hold of him, and he's just refusing to talk to her. And what we hear is that Vince is with his family, and most likely his brother Joe. Now remember, the car's still missing. Rolling on to May 7th, we're finding out through the Sugarland police, they're telling us that Vince has changed his story. It doesn't make sense, and it's got a lot of missing blanks. And they ask the public to come forward with any information. As far as the public goes, when they start to hear the story, they immediately start to point fingers at Brittany Bowens and Darian Vince's family. Tim Miller from EcuSearch does an interview with media, and that's around 12 or 12:30 p.m. He says the search will shift close to the apartment because they already searched and covered the area Vince was dropped off. They didn't find anything. It's at this point that Tim also suspects that she's probably not here any longer. And so moving on to May 8th, the bio dad Craig Davis, which you can see here, he always appears to be more infatuated with himself than he is with his own children. Not saying that he don't love them, but you can tell he's young. He had some words to say this day. He says, "I'm not putting the blame on anybody. I just need Darian to answer the questions that are not answered." This same day, we're dealing with a court order that Brittany Bowens and Vince are ordered from seeing any of the kids, the boys, siblings, etc., so on. And so the half-brother of Darian Vince is with the father's mother, and the older brother of and a child of Craig Davis, their son is with the aunt and not with the bio dad. And that's kind of interesting, isn't it? So also on this day, police released new photos of the silver Altima car with a license plate number. And EquiSearch is pausing the searching because of bad weather. So this day was full of a lot. I mean, there was a lot going on this day. Not to mention, Darian Vince is in hiding, basically. They cannot find him. And this ultimately is what persuades the judge later when he goes to court to put that $1 million bond on him. So May 9th comes along, and guess what we find out? Well, let me play this audio for you.
Give you the license plate. Wait. 1 second. What kind of vehicle? It's a Nissan Altima, the silver-looking color. The license plate is 33092G9. That's the vehicle. They said the license plate's on the news last night. Oh. And you said it's in the parking lot of where? It's in the parking lot. What's over here is off the Highway 6. Okay, ma'am, just take a deep breath. You said it's off of Highway 6, but in the parking lot, like in front of what business? In the front of, oh, Lord Jesus. It's an Avis rental car.
On this day, they found a gas can in the car, the basket that he was carrying. They found a few other things that they didn't share with us. Now, this car, was one of the number one items and interest of the police. Cadaver dogs did pick up a scent of decomposition, so that pretty much the police got so many tips pointing to the fact that the girl was gone. Yet here we are with we're hearing later on that they're still trying to prove intent, which is the crucial that's the goal in order to charge him with murder. Now, Brittany Bowens was seen at this site, and she was seen having a huge breakdown where she fell to the ground. I mean, she just really was struggling. And what the public thinks, some of them believe that was a big show. We also start to find out about allegations of past abuse. We find out about her, Maleah Davis's head injury. So we have a lot going on in this time period that we learn about this case, and it's all at once. But back to the car, where they find the gas can. What was the gas can for? And a lot of people suspect that it wasn't to burn evidence, but instead it was used as a way to avoid getting gas so that he wasn't easy to track. But it was a pretty small gas can. So he was driving with his son in the car with these fumes. If the gas can was full, we don't even know. If there was gas in that can, I'm sure the fumes consumed that car. Okay, guys, now I want to move on to May 10th, and this is a Friday. And this is where we see QX and Brittany Bowens in an interview. And during the interview, QX, which is a community activist, also involved with the Black Panther and Islam, and has a very dark past. He was quite evil in his younger years, is standing beside this mother of Maleah Davis, answering questions, and everybody's going, why is he here? Why in the world would Brittany Bowens want a community activist versus an attorney? That made no sense. And of course, media and news channels took off with this. They said, and as we know, Brittany Bowens was not making any type of accusations, and she wasn't saying too much. It was QX that was doing that. But the papers say, Brittany Bowens revealed that she and Vince had broke up, and then that she also reveals that there was abuse. And I too am guilty of spreading that at first because, she stood there the whole time and really didn't deny anything. But she was very quiet and acted a bit shy. We find out on the first interview that QX says that he did some investigating himself, him and his group, which is a complete lie. They tell us that Brittany Bowens and Darian Vince were in an argument the day Maleah went missing and the day that Brittany went to the airport. She threatened to give him the ring back, or said she had give him the ring back in some versions, but her ring is still on her finger, so that didn't happen. And they also say, because they didn't go into huge details, but they give us a taste of what they were arguing about, and that was an affair and, new pictures. And it's at this time that QX says that Darian Vince is angry, which is the total opposite of what he says beside Brittany Bowens at another interview, where he said Darian Vince was not angry, but he was upset. Just like always, his words can change by the minute, on the hour, it doesn't matter. But we do find out that QX says, we have suspicions that he was taking that girl home from the daycare and Brittany Bowens didn't know it. And the look on Brittany Bowens' face looked as if she did know it, but she was afraid to say so. And maybe there are several reasons as to why, because she is being looked at by the CPS. If she's not, being well taken care of, that can cause her to act like that. If there's abuse or molestation going on, it can also make her have that look on her face. But the most important thing we learned this interview is that she did not turn in those text messages between her and Darian Vince to the police. We don't know if the police asked for those, but we could be certain if this happened, you would at least offer it. You would want to know what happened to your kids. So we learned this day that Brittany Bowens was going to hide the text messages. She wasn't going to share them. And we learned she is a manipulator and that herself comes first above her children, above anyone else. So this is why if you see people who don't trust Brittany, she could be innocent of everything, but if you lie, you ruin everything. So QX did, he should get the credit for the fact that he did get get her to give the text messages to the police. Okay guys, on to go now. So on May 11th, Saturday, Darian Vince was arrested. I think I have 2:40 written here p.m. Is that correct, guys? Right in the bottom, I know somebody knows the time he was arrested. So also QX posted on his Facebook, he claims that Brittany shared things with him that he says BB didn't share with investigators. Quote, QX asked her why she didn't share the information with police, end quote. She says, quote, I was traumatized and stressed out. I could not recall if I give them the info, over, end quote. QX says BB didn't willingly share the information with him, so he had to work it out of her. And it just sounds like it's being a challenge. It's a challenge for her. So QX says it was through the investigation that we suggested to Brittany Bowens that she have another meeting with police and tell them and give them the new information QX had gotten. And just when you think that QX is trying to be a great person, which I know his background, guys, I know who he really is. he is one of the darkest men you will ever meet in your entire life, who's trying to find, a better path, but went through Islam, which is not. But anyways, QX begins to brag he found out more information in 2 days than the police did in an entire week, as if this child's life is a game or a competition, which is the most immature statement I have ever heard. It's a narcissistic, selfish statement that says, I care less about anybody but myself. Is the statement true? Probably so. But I'm sure the police knew way more than they're not going to say. I think QX puts himself on a pedestal thinking that the police have told him everything, which I doubt. And my final evaluation during this time, between QX, Brittany Bowens, all of them, I find that they're all selfish people, including the mother, because the mother this day pretty much sets the light she walks in from then here on. And how is that? You say, well, firstly, we find out that she's trying to manipulate everybody and trying to hide the true facts while her daughter is missing, which means that, she's a manipulator. She could care less about her child. She's worried about her relationship with Darian Vince. She's trying to hide something desperately. There has been many times I've seen her cry, I've seen her do this and say things that seem logical, but all I can do is refer back to the lies, and it wipes all of that empathy away for Brittany Bowens. I started a petition that I have not shared, but it's got, I think it has 500 signatures, and I haven't even tried to push it. And that's how many people feel that Brittany Bowens had more to do with this than she says. Now, I can imagine if I've got that many signatures and I'm not even pushing it or advertising it, what the real petition that's out there is doing right now. So guys, if you run across a petition chasing a murderer, do not sign that one. Sign the main petition. I don't want to take any signatures away. I had that there just in case we would need it. Now, I can tell you on May 11th, I started having my suspicions about QX's involvement. They got stronger and stronger. And then I found out that he was he was getting donations and things like this. And, Tim Miller's involved with this. He, in my opinion, he says he's not a spotlight hog, but he shows up to all the interviews, right? Doesn't he? We see him. He went through hell. He's a good guy, really. But he also can manipulate a little. But the difference between Tim Miller and QX is Tim Miller puts his own money out to help in cases, whereas QX only draws in money for himself. So there you go. So Tim Miller actually, if you had to choose, if they want to choose somebody who did most of it, it would probably be Tim Miller that really did it from the heart. So moving on to the 12th. Now, I might have a few things not so right on this timeline. It's not easy when you have a lot going on. So we're finding out that the DNA from the apartment is that of Maleah Davis. Anyways, that's when it's released into news media, etc. Really heavily was May 12th. But I believe it was May 11th that we find out the DNA evidence, and that's why he was able to be arrested May 11th. So moving on to May 13th. So we covered the fact that Darian Vince was arrested for tampering with evidence and, that being of a human corpse. We find out Sunday that the DNA matches, and Brittany shows up to go to court with her ex-fiance Darian Vince, and and it is rescheduled for July 10th. We don't get much from Vince's attorney because Burton says that he cannot comment. He hasn't seen the evidence. Now this day, Craig Davis's family is seen yelling at Brittany Bowen. She's with QX. She let it happen. Now remember, police were trying to find Darian Vince. They could not find him. So when he showed up to court this day, the judge put a hefty bond up, which was $999,000. So right at $1 million. And the reason why she did this was the fact that she could not, they already couldn't find him. They couldn't get a hold of Darian Vince, so, they didn't trust him. Okay, so we get a hint this day that there is blood that was found on the car, and this is according to CNN News. And the blood found in the car did match the DNA on the child's toothbrush. Okay guys, so I want you guys to type in the comments below how you feel about this part of what we discussed of the Maleah Davis case. So coming up, we will be leading into more of what's happening more in the future with this case on the next few videos coming out. So I'm glad you guys are being patient with me. I've had some things come up. I've had huge issues trying to get these videos made. If you only knew, you're like, I can't believe she even got one out. But anyways, I want to say thanks for watching, guys, and this is the end of part 2B, and we will have part 3 coming up, which will actually start. We won't do recaps any longer. We'll actually start on day 14.